Finding that coded letter in my dead grandmother's jewelry box wasn't just discovering family history. It was uncovering the blueprint for my sister's 15-year con that had stolen my inheritance, my reputation, and nearly my sanity. I'm Sarah, and 6 months ago I thought my older sister Emma was the golden child who could do no wrong. She lived in our grandmother's Victorian house in Salem, Oregon, the one that should have been split between us. She drove the Mercedes our grandmother gifted her before she died. She had the jewelry, the antique furniture, everything. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts at a Portland coffee shop, living in a studio apartment, wondering why Grandma Rose had loved Emma so much more than me. The funeral was in March. Small, quiet, just Emma, me, and a handful of Rose's church friends. Emma handled everything, the arrangements, the flowers, even the eulogy. She painted this picture of herself as Rose's devoted caregiver who'd sacrificed everything to move in and take care of her during those final years. I felt guilty for resenting it, but something about her performance felt rehearsed, too polished. Rose always said family takes care of family, Emma had whispered to me at the reception, squeezing my hand with fake tears in her eyes. She was so grateful I was there for her. What I didn't know then was that Rose had been trying to reach me for months before she died. Emma had been intercepting my mail, blocking my phone number, and telling Rose I wanted nothing to do with her. Meanwhile, Emma had been slowly convincing our grandmother to sign over everything piece by piece, claiming I'd abandoned the family and didn't deserve Rose's legacy. The truth started unraveling 3 weeks after the funeral when Emma asked me to help clean out Rose's bedroom. I think she just wanted witnesses to her grief performance, but I agreed because I needed closure. We were going through Rose's vanity when I found the hidden compartment in her jewelry box, the same box Emma claimed had been mostly empty when Rose died. Inside was a letter dated just 2 months before Rose passed. It was written in Rose's handwriting, but parts of it were in this weird code, numbers and symbols mixed with regular words. At first I thought it was dementia, but Rose had been sharp as a tack right until the end. The letter was addressed to me. Sarah, darling, if you're reading this, I pray you found my little cipher before Emma destroyed it. I taught you this code when you were 12, remember? The summer after your parents died, when we spent hours in the garden working on puzzles. I know you remember. My heart stopped. I did remember. Rose had created this elaborate number substitution code for us to use in our letters when I went back to live with my aunt in California. She'd made it into a game, teaching me that every number corresponded to a letter, and certain symbols meant to reverse or skip letters. I'd forgotten about it completely until that moment. Emma was in the bathroom, so I quickly photographed the letter and shoved it in my purse. That night, I sat in my studio apartment with a yellow legal pad, working through Rose's cipher like I was 12 years old again. What I decoded made me physically sick. Emma has been lying to you about me. She told me you said I was a burden and you never wanted to see me again. She showed me fake text messages from your phone saying horrible things. I know now they weren't real. I've been trying to call you for 6 months, but she changed my phone to block your number. I don't know how to reach you. She's been forging documents, Sarah. She made me sign papers I didn't understand. I think she's stealing from me, but I'm scared and confused. Please forgive me for believing her lies about you. I love you. The truth is in the safety deposit box at First National, box 247. Key taped under kitchen drawer, third from left. If something happens to me, don't let her win. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Emma had systematically destroyed my relationship with the only family I had left, then swooped in to steal everything while Rose died thinking I hated her. But grief would have to wait. If Rose said there was evidence in that safety deposit box, I was going to find it. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to Salem. Emma was at her real estate office. She'd always bragged about her successful career, which now made sense since she'd been living rent-free in a house worth $400,000. I let myself in with the spare key Rose had given me years ago, the one Emma didn't know I still had. The kitchen drawer key was exactly where Rose said it would be, taped underneath with medical tape, like she'd been planning this for months. At First National, my hands shook as I turned that key. Inside the safety deposit box was a manila folder that would change everything. Bank statements showing Emma had been transferring money out of Rose's accounts for 2 years. Forged power of attorney documents with my signature, except I'd never signed them, and the handwriting analysis I'd get later proved it. Screenshots of the fake text conversations Emma had created using some app, making it look like I'd been sending Rose cruel messages about being a burden and wanting her to die already. But the most damning evidence was Rose's real will. Not the one Emma had filed with the court, but the actual last will and testament, dated just 3 months before Rose died. It split everything equally between Emma and me, with a specific clause that if either sister was found to be deceiving Rose about the other, that sister would forfeit their entire inheritance. Emma had been so confident in her con that she'd never thought to check if Rose had a safety deposit box. She'd filed her fake will assuming she'd covered all her tracks. I photographed everything, made copies at the bank, and drove home to plan my next move. Emma was going to learn what happens when you steal from family and desecrate a grandmother's memory. First, I needed legal help. I used part of my meager savings to consult with a probate attorney named Marcus Chen, who took one look at my evidence and practically rubbed his hands together. "This is elder abuse, fraud, and probate fraud," he said, spreading the documents across his desk. "We're talking felony charges here, but we need to be strategic about this." Marcus advised me to document everything while acting normal around Emma. So I did. I installed a recording app on my phone and started visiting Emma regularly, asking innocent questions about Rose's final months. "It's so weird that Rose never called me back," I'd say, watching Emma's face. "You know how she was at the end, Sarah. Confused about things she probably forgot. But her phone records show she tried to call me dozens of times. The calls just never went through." I watched Emma's face change. Saw that flicker of panic before she recovered. "Oh, her phone was acting up. I kept meaning to get it fixed." Every lie recorded. Every contradiction documented. Then I hired a private investigator named Janet Wells to dig deeper into Emma's finances. What she found was beautiful in its justice. Emma hadn't just been stealing from Rose. She'd been kiting checks and borrowing against the house to fund her lifestyle. She was leveraged to the eyeballs, counting on Rose's full inheritance to cover her debts. The revenge plan was elegant in its simplicity. I would file the real will with the probate court, along with all the evidence of Emma's fraud. But first, I wanted her to know it was coming. I spent weeks preparing for the confrontation. I practiced what I'd say, imagined her denials, her attempts to manipulate me. I wanted to savor every second of watching her perfect little world crumble. On a Tuesday morning in early June, I drove to Salem and parked outside Emma's real estate office. I'd chosen this location specifically, public enough that she couldn't make a scene, but private enough for me to destroy her completely. She looked up from her desk with that fake smile she'd perfected. "Sarah, what a nice surprise. I was just thinking about you." I sat down across from her and placed a manila folder on her desk. I found Rose's safety deposit box. The color drained from her face, but she tried to maintain composure. "What safety deposit box?" Rose never mentioned. "Box 247 at First National." I opened the folder and spread out copies of the bank statements. Interesting reading. $37,000 in unauthorized transfers. Rose never signed these. Emma's hands started shaking. I don't know what you think you found, but I also found the real will, Emma. The one where Rose splits everything equally between us, not the fake one you filed. Now she was sweating. Sarah, you're confused. The grief is making you paranoid. And then there are these. I pulled out the screenshots of the fake text messages. Pretty sophisticated work, creating fake conversations to show Rose. Made it look like I was calling her names, telling her I wished she'd die faster. Really sold the story that I'd abandoned her. Emma stood up abruptly, knocking over her coffee mug. The brown liquid spread across her desk, staining the papers she'd been working on. You can't prove any of this, she whispered. I smiled and pulled out my phone, playing back our conversation from 2 weeks earlier, where she'd admitted to handling Rose's phone problems. Actually, I can prove all of it. Handwriting analysis on the forged documents. Phone records showing Rose tried to call me 127 times in her final months, calls that were blocked by parental controls you installed on her phone. Bank records, private investigator reports, recorded conversations. I've got 15 years of your cons documented, Emma. She sank back into her chair, and for the first time in my life, I saw my sister look small, powerless, the way she'd made Rose feel in those final months. What do you want? She asked quietly. I want you to know that Rose died thinking I hated her because of your lies. I want you to know that you stole the last months I could have had with the woman who raised me. And I want you to know that in about 30 minutes, my attorney is filing the real will with the probate court, along with a criminal complaint for elder abuse and fraud. Emma's facade finally cracked completely. Sarah, please, I'm drowning here. The house payments, the credit cards. I needed that money to survive. I never meant for Rose to get hurt. You convinced our dying grandmother that her granddaughter hated her. You forged legal documents and stole her life savings. You absolutely meant for her to get hurt. I stood up and gathered my papers. Oh, and Emma, I called your broker this morning. Showed him the evidence that you've been using a house you don't legally own as collateral for client transactions. He was very interested in that conversation. The next few months were a masterpiece of karma in action. The probate court invalidated Emma's fake will and recognized Rose's real one. Since Emma had violated the terms by deceiving Rose about me, she forfeited her entire inheritance. The house, the car, the jewelry, the furniture, all of it came to me. But that was just the beginning. The district attorney filed criminal charges against Emma for elder abuse, fraud, and forgery. Her real estate license was revoked. The leveraged debts she'd hidden came due, and without Rose's inheritance to cover them, she filed for bankruptcy. She lost her job, her house, her car, and her reputation. The local newspaper ran a story about the elder abuse case that made it impossible for her to find work anywhere in Oregon. The most beautiful part was that I didn't have to lift a finger for the final humiliation. Emma's own greed had set up a house of cards that collapsed the moment I pulled out the foundation of lies. Today, I live in Rose's house in Salem. I've turned her garden room into an office where I work as a freelance graphic designer, making more money than I ever did at that coffee shop. Emma's Mercedes is in my driveway. I kept it just for the symbolism. I wear Rose's jewelry and sit in her favorite chair every morning with my coffee. Emma lives in a studio apartment in Portland now, working at a call center under her middle name because her reputation in real estate is permanently destroyed. She tried to apologize once, calling to say she never meant for things to go so far. I told her the same thing she told Rose when she was stealing from her. Family takes care of family. Sometimes I think about how different things could have been if Emma had just been honest. if she'd shared Rose's care responsibilities and let me say goodbye properly. But Emma chose greed over family, lies over love. She gambled everything on a con game and lost. The coded letter Rose left me wasn't just evidence, it was a final gift. A puzzle that revealed the truth and gave me the tools to get justice. Rose may have died thinking I didn't love her, but in the end, she made sure Emma would pay for that lie. Here's what I learned from this experience. First, always trust your instincts when something feels off about a family situation. Second, document everything, text messages, phone calls, financial records, because liars always leave trails. Third, sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's letting someone's own lies destroy them. Rose's code taught me that the truth always finds a way to surface, even when it's buried under years of deception. Emma thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers, but she forgot that I learned from the same woman who taught her everything she knew. If you've ever dealt with a manipulative family member who tried to turn relatives against each other, drop a decode in the comments and let me know your story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel to get more stories like this.